This clip is brought to you by SaveWithConrad.com.
So let's talk about a conversation that's reported in the Observer. It's written that you spoke with Vince McMahon on October 15th. So the day before you have your last show under contract. So let's remind everybody that big show in Atlanta at the Georgia Dome is on the 11th. The next day you invite Richard Scrushy down to Birmingham for SmackDown on the 12th. You're off on the 13th and 14th. You have a conversation with Vince on the 15th. And I assume at that point, you've already, in theory, worked out a deal with WCW. Maybe you haven't put pen to paper, but the finer points have been discussed and agreed by both parties.
Correct.
And I believe it's written in the Observer that both you and Vince agree the issue with this contract situation and Jeff Jarrett and the World Wrestling Federation was Jim Ross. Did Vince say that?
I can tell you this, Conrad, next time you're over at the house, I'm going to take you to the spot in this house that I had the conversation. And this is how it's, I was in October of 99, I was remodeling the house upstairs. I lived downstairs. And it's funny. We had the kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom. That's what we lived in. Had the one kid. But back in those days, we had the old proverbial answering machine.
Yeah.
And I had one voicemail and two, and I don't want this to be the party, but a couple of hangups that I just assumed, but I was gone because, again, not home very long. I don't know if it's dry cleaners and gym and family, whatever. But when I got back in, I got back there. I'm like, okay. And I called, he called me, but I was going to call him. And he's traveling the world. So he was not in Connecticut, to my knowledge. I feel like he wasn't, or he just got back, whatever. But the conversation, hey, pal, where are we at with this thing? And I just sort of gave him the long and short of it. Vince, I can assure you I'm going to be there Sunday, and you have nothing to worry about. But if we're calling to talk about a contract, candidly, it's too late. Okay, I appreciate it. Jeff, will I see you Sunday? I said, absolutely, sir.
So he knew what the circumstance was 2 days ahead of time.
100%.
The next day, you're going to work
a conversation. Remember, man to man, promoter to talent. Will I see you on Sunday? Absolutely. You have nothing to worry about. I'm going to tear the house down with China.
Was there any, did you feel a sense of urgency? You talked about that earlier. Did you feel a sense of urgency to work out a deal with WCW before you put over China? There's been famous stories before, like I think even when Flair lost to Mr. Perfect in a loser leaves town match, he goes back to WCW and Ole says, what value do you have to me now since you just lost on TV? And that was to Mr. Perfect. Now you're about to lose to a lady. Were you concerned, man, this might hurt my negotiating? I need to go ahead and get something on paper now.
Not the wins and losses. I've never really give it that kind of mentality. I mean, that's, I in my mind, my value was as high as it had been since me and Road Dogg were together. That's how I viewed it. My value is there. But I also knew that if I'm walking in a door, it's like, all right, Jeff, you left there, so that isn't an option. It's supply and demand. Okay, yeah. You want me to? I mean, so I would have been bargaining with the chip with Bill Bush that, hey, I might go to Mexico or Japan. Okay, it was that simple.
Let's talk about the Nutter Center, October 16th, 1999. You talked to Vince the day before. This is your last house show. You're working third from the top. The main event that night is Big Show versus the hardcore champion, the Big Boss Man, in a non-title match. Underneath that is Road Dogg beating Chris Jericho. You're third from the top. You're the IC champ. You beat the Godfather. Does anybody in the backstage area, are you telling any of the boys, hey, man?
Brian knew, and I don't recall any good, bad, ugly, hush mouth. I don't believe it was really a topic of, I didn't have any conversations, and me and Brian conversations were just in the car.
So here we go. from the Observer. Jarrett was asking for 400,000 and 450,000. What's that?
I said, is this the go home?
We're getting close.
No.
What's funny is you and I have been talking now for over 2 hours, and we're on page 6 of 11 pages of notes. So we're home stretching because we know the rest of the story. I feel like I needed to add context to how did we get here? We ultimately know what's going to happen. So I think we can sort of zip through this. But Meltzer would write, Jarrett was asking for 400 and 450,000 downside guarantee over 2 years to stay, which is apparently what he got from WCW and what Titan ultimately matched. Roughly the same pay category that Chris Jericho was getting, but not until after Russo left, and probably not until the realization that he had the IC title and could have embarrassed them by leaving without doing the job after seemingly not being interested in him at anywhere near that price. By then, he'd already really made his decision to go with Russo, who needed his own political allies in the dressing room and shark-infested waters. So timeout right there. Is it fair to say that Meltzer is just sort of trying to deduce what he thinks happened? Because you have not mentioned Russo one time in any of this.
I mean, and that's Dave. He deduced it. And I'm sure even the people in WCW, they had no idea. Like I had no idea what was going on in WCW, or you just don't know. They're just thinking, oh, this is kind of simple. I'm going to put 2 and 2 together. They didn't know the story behind the story. Nobody did. I mean, Dave was deducing is the short answer, 100%.
Hey, it's Conrad Thompson. Thanks for checking out the podcast here on YouTube. Be sure to hit the subscribe button and the notifications bell so you can notice anytime we upload some new content. And go save yourself some money right now. If you're in a 30-year loan or you have credit card debt, it's not a matter of if I can save you money. It's a matter of how much. Find out right now for free at SaveWithConrad.com.